Hello, folks. Welcome to another little late start of Social Media News Live. I've had a day, 2 days actually. So yesterday, my wife and daughter were in a car wreck. They're okay, but it totaled the car. You know, if you've ever been in one of those, the emotional stuff that happens, and it was just a crazy day. And then I get in here and like my autofocus isn't working, and then I get that working, and then I don't have a monitor. I'm like, ah! So it's a Friday. Thank you goodness it's Friday. But I have got my good friend Jason Goff here with me. Thank you, Gary, for coming in late with us. But Jason's here. We're going to be talking about community. I have known Jason for a long time, and he is one of the best guys. Don't let him hear this. Cover your ears, Jason. He's one of the best guys out there. He's just super smart when it comes to doing all this stuff with community. He and I think we worked together pretty much at Social Media Examiner. When I was there, you're still there. You've got an increased role. So we're going to talk about what he does and all the cool stuff there. So ask your questions if you're really interested in community, what's going on with that, how you can use it. Make sure you ask your questions down below because this is going to be a fun show. Connor Brown is, he's at a wedding. It's not his wedding, but he's at a friend's wedding, so he's not here with us. So it's going to be Jason and I, which will be fabulous. It'll give you more time to ask your questions. Jason Goff, how are you doing today, my friend?
I am doing better than stupendous.
There you go.
As Leslie Samuel would say.
He does say
awesome
that.
Conference, so.
Good, Leslie. I actually watched his eCam presentation. By the way, you can still buy those tickets, I believe, if you want to get the pass that if you go to leap.ecam.com. He had a great session about AI, so of course I had to watch that. So, where are you at? Because you travel a lot. Where are you calling in from right now?
Right now, I'm at home, like home as in house, in northern Kentucky. So I can see Cincinnati out my front door. People think, oh, you're from Louisville? No, like if you fly into Cincinnati, you're in Kentucky. That's where I'm at.
I love Kentucky. It's a great, I need to do some more vacations up that way, but I'm going to go ahead and hit go on the podcast machine and we'll get started. So make sure you guys ask your questions as we go along. So here we go. Hello, folks. Welcome to Social Media News Live. I'm Jeff C., and you're not. And this is the show that keeps you up to date on what's happening in the world of social media and more. But have you ever caught yourself wondering how some brands create communities that feel more like a close-knit club than in the comments? So you're curious about moves that turn casual followers into loyal ambassadors? Maybe you're ready to transform your audience into a space where people feel welcomed, supported, and inspired to grow. If any of that is something that you would like to have, you are in the right place, because today we're welcoming Jason Goff. He's a senior community and support specialist at Social Media Examiner. He spent 15 plus years connecting thousands of marketers through events, memberships, and conversations that matter. Jason's going to share his journey, his hard-won insights, and his favorite tactics for cultivating thriving communities in an AI-driven world. So sit back, clear your schedule, clear your mind, and get ready for this week's episode of Social Media News Live. Jason, how are you doing today, my friend?
Doing great. How are you, Jeff?
It's been a frazzling, it's been, thank you for being patient it's always a mad dash, and I haven't had to do the crawl under the desk for a long time, but that is happening. That happened right before the show. But
I was going to say you wear it well.
Oh, yeah. So I usually have a nicer shirt on. This is still t-shirts. It was hot. I was, I am not a calm, I am a calm, I can handle myself in an emergency, but when it's like before a show, like I'm throwing stuff everywhere, unplugging things, which probably isn't the best thing to do, but we got it working. That's all that matters. But I want to introduce you to Jason if you don't know him very well. He is a seasoned community strategist with over a decade and a half of experience building authentic, engaged communities both online and in person. As the senior community and support specialist at Social Media Examiner, he connects thousands of marketers through those events that they have, memberships, which we're going to talk about, and meaningful conversation. And he really believes that community is all about creating spaces where people feel seen, supported, and inspired to grow. And he really does bring a warm, grounded presence and a deep belief in the power of people coming together with purpose. And so, Jason, we're going to dive into it today because you know what is going on in the community. I look up to you a lot when it comes to the way that you support Social Media Examiner, the other projects you've gotten going on. So this is going to be a fun conversation.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So first of all, I want to do a big shout out to our friends over at Ecamm. You can find out more about them at ecamm.com/Jeff. You can save 15% off your first purchase by using code Jeff15. They are what makes this show happen, and they are actually the reason why, even with all the headaches, I was able to go live a couple minutes late. But they're a great group of people over there. So ecamm.com/Jeff. Thank you to them for sponsoring the show. But Jason, we're going to get right into this community thing that you speak of. And one of the things you've said, social media isn't just about publishing content anymore, but conversations are where the magic happens. So I kind of want to start off, because I think it's going to color a lot of our conversation, about this AI on social media platforms. AI are tools that let you do all this stuff differently, a little bit faster. But I want to talk about it, how we approach it with community building and engagement with these kind of routine tasks that you as a manager might have to do. So talk about that a little bit. Are you using AI? Are you worried about it? I mean, we kind of talked offline a little bit about this, but I want to know your thoughts.
I'm absolutely using AI, but I will say that AI isn't the end all. I think we get enamored with the tools and we forget, well, why are we doing this? And so, I would say before, and as a foundation for anything, know your purpose and be aligned with that. And whatever projects you take on, see if that aligns with the purpose. You could even say, it's Friday today. My purpose is, or, a foundational purpose statement for me was, I want to see my friends win. And if AI can help my friends win, then bring it on. The conversations that we have on social media are centered, when it comes from me, is I want to see you win. So if AI is going to help you win, if it's going to help you brainstorm, if it's going to help you get your thoughts together, then use it. But know that if you're going to copy and paste, your heart behind it is probably not to see others win, it's to see yourself get exposure. And while that's not necessarily a bad thing, it comes through. So, the whole M dash thing,
Yeah,
some of you might be watching on
right.
on LinkedIn, and there's M dash this and M dash that. It's gotten to the point where the M dash is a distraction. So I don't use it because of that. I will die on the hill of an Oxford comma, but I don't,
right.
I won't comment necessarily about that. And if it became a distraction, then if it means taking me away from community, for people to know that, hey, I'm Jason and I care about you and I want to see you win, then be gone with you, Oxford comma, if that's a distraction for that.
Right. That's a good point, because I know a lot of people are dying on the hill of like, listen, I've used them before. I don't care what, but it's the same way I used to use Delve or Dive, and you can't use those anymore because it was funny because, Michael Stelzner had a post yesterday where he did it, and somebody even said like, hey, I thought that was great until I got to that section where it sounded like AI, and Mike came back and said, listen, I use AI to help clean up my thoughts, but it is me. And I think that's the balance we're going to have to run. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And he's a writer, so I would expect him to be using the M dash.
Right.
Yes, I'm a writer, but it's more of from a visual point of view. So if you see me using ellipsis or broken sentences or whatever, then it's from me. If you see this shift that happened in November of, 2022? If you saw this shift in the way Jason communicates with you, chances are it's because he started copying and pasting ChatGPT. So you don't want that. You want to interact with, I hope you want to interact with me, Jeff. You may not want to all the time.
No, I do.
If you want to interact with me, it needs to look like it's coming from me.
Yeah. So one of the things, and so what I have done, and by the way, you can also, I do have a newsletter, and I use AI on the post that I sent out talking about this show. I do use it for that because it helps me organize stuff. It's still, I change it up enough that I feel like it's still me. Now, my Tuesday or Wednesday emails that I do during the week, that is mostly all me. Now, I do, where do you draw the line at AI? Because Grammarly, for me, it's still AI, but I still use it because horrible speller. It helps me with some of those punctuation mistakes. So that is AI. So I guess I am technically still using AI, but it's more of me sharing my thoughts. Chris Stone, who watches quite a bit, says, he can tell it's not AI because it's so weird. So that's one thing that I got going for me. But so on that kind of subjects, like using it as a tool, but not having it change your voice, I think more and more as it comes out and becomes, we don't even think about using word processing anymore, and we don't even think about using spell check anymore, which is technically AI. Are you think people are gonna really have to go back to really crafting, even though we kind of have an easy button now? Like, what are your thoughts on how this develops and how we can use it? Because we do want to save time, and some of us are horrible spellers. So where's the line, I guess?
Right. Absolutely. Well, I think back to the days when I was a kid, I listened to shortwave radio. I loved it. Like, I would hear all of these broadcasts from around the world, and it was just the bomb diggity for me. I'd write the radio stations,
Right.
and they write me back, and yeah, they were sending automated messages. Even back then, they were using, pre-formatted typed messages and so on, but it was still cool to get a correspondence from them.
Mm-hmm.
So that concept of automation and making things faster, it's nothing new.
Right.
It's a question of, are you meeting the expectation that people have from you? So, Jeff, I expect really cool imagery coming from you, and I see the images that you create using AI, and it's like, well, I know that's Jeff. I know that he put some creativity behind that.
Yeah.
So there is that balance, but do I like to receive a piece of mail every now and then from a brand that I may not expect it from? That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
It breaks it. It's a little bit of a zag when everybody else is zigging.
Yeah. We've got some of our friends, speaking of community, and I have the best community here on Fridays. So thank you guys for waiting for me today as we get. And so Ralph says, carpenters still use hammers. AI is a tool. I think it's really cool. And then Kira says, it makes me think of the pay-per-click automated character in Word way back in the day. That's right. There has been some form of automation. I think it's how we use it, the intention, and whether or not we're double checking what AI gives us. I think that's a great point, Kira. And the AI stuff, I'm using images because I think it enhances. I've always loved imagery and tried to play with it and use different things. But I think they're still taking a step, like, and we've talked about it before, that I use when I create the thumbnails for this. I get it as close as I can with Midjourney or ChatGPT, and then I have to go in and do a face swap. So if you saw the thumbnail in the email today or over on YouTube that we use for Jason, that actually I made it as close as I could, but then I had to go in and craft it. Yeah, I had to fix your face a little bit. The funny thing is it screwed up your teeth. Like, it gave you a big snaggletooth the first time I did it. So I had to use like Adobe's generative fill to fix your teeth. So Phil, I won't charge you for that. Like, a dentist would charge you a lot, but not me. That's on the house for being on the show.
Awesome. See, you're using AI to show that you care.
That's right, exactly. And so yes, Gary, he goes, runs to add Jason to our mailing list. Yeah, he is somebody to follow. One of the things I wanted to ask you on LinkedIn, you posed the question of whether the term artificial intelligence might turn people off from using it. And why do you think that marketers are like maybe be scared for adopting AI, or even like small businesses are scared, and we still have that dividing line? I feel like I'm not going to use it at all, and then like, oh yeah, I'm using it for everything. Like, this isn't even me talking, kind of a thing. So there's a balance. How would you use AI in a community setting? Let's say you are in charge, like you are, of a big community group. Would you use that to automate your processes, like following up with people? How would you use AI in like the community aspect of things?
Well, it's all about connecting people with whatever is important to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I happen to be talking to marketers, so they're going to use the jargon of the day. Just like when social media was first coming out, we were the ones calling it social media. Everyone else was calling it Facebook, at least from our generation. And then
Right.
the younger generation might have been calling it, Snapchat or whatever. But for my community, yes, we do call it AI, and we're still trying to figure out this and how it works, and am I going to lose my job? And then for those of us who have been around for a while, we've seen things come and go. We've seen the adoption of new technology that actually makes us more efficient. I was a travel agent. Yes, there are a few travel agents out there
Right.
still, but it changed. And so if that causes my community to feel like, oh, yes, we can connect around this, we can connect around the jargon,
Mm-hmm.
and pull from our experiences to be like, yes, I'm relevant. I'm still relevant as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
My job function might change a little bit, but the end is still the same. The fruit is still the same. I'm trying to attract attention so people can see the value that I have to offer.
That's a great point. So, I guess we've had Vincent, and I always say his name wrong. It's Pelagies. I go back and look, everybody. I can't say it. But he does a great community group that he runs, and what he does that I thought was really, really good, and I've been on the receiving end of it. He will send voice messages to people like on Facebook Messenger or whatever, and he does that. He calls it his power hour. Like he does it the first hour of every day. He goes and leaves these voice messages, and I thought it was genius because of the way that you're not going to not listen to a voicemail for one thing, especially for somebody that you know of and you're connected with, and that he's very intentionally about doing that. But you could also use AI in ways like, okay, what are some topics that I can rotate through to talk to these people about, and it's not spammy or whatever. But a lot of times we struggle with what to talk about or what to ask or whatever, or even organizing a list and using AI to organize the time to do your power hour. There's all sorts of things you can use for that. So what are your thoughts about using it directly in the community kind of processes?
Well, I mean, the thing that jumps into my head is to resource your audience, resource your community with something cool that's going to make them better. So the first thing that jumps into my head is showing people how to build a custom GPT, because how cool is that? I've had Facebook Freddy for a long time now. He's my intern who helps me get clarity with, okay, what am I going to post and what's the format and so on. But now GPTs are so much more advanced where you can have a little conversation with them, and at the end it composes this beautiful, I have one that does a purpose statement. So if you can show people, at least marketers, if you can show your audience of marketers, hey, here's a GPT. Did you know that it can do this? Did you know that you can actually use it for a lead magnet? Did you know that you can actually make money making GPTs? All of that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It's bringing them along. And then in the comments, invariably, there will be somebody who knows something more than you. And that is not a threat.
Right.
That's awesome. So even that strategy we've used for years at Social Media Examiner on Facebook, we ask questions. It's so we can bring out our audience and know what they know and what they want to know, and to see them. I win when there's a comment thread and I, as the admin, am not the one responding to everyone, but that the community is speaking to each other. And so it's like that in a Mighty Networks community, or in a Circle community, or Heartbeat, or any of those. When you have the community helping each other out, there's no need to be intimidated by somebody who might know something more than you do.
So let's talk about that, because I know a lot of people want to have community and they're thinking about that. So, and that just didn't happen overnight, right? Like I've seen that in I'm part of the AI Marketing Society. Is that what you say? Is that how it's called?
Business Society.
Marketing business
AI
Business Society. There it is. So I taught a class in there, and I'm probably teaching one again shortly. But you mentioned they come in and if some question happens, it's not just the admins doing it; it's other people in the community are coming around and giving their advice. That doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen accidentally either. Ecamm has the same thing. If you go to Ecamm's community, you'll see a lot of people ask questions, and before even like Doc or some of the people who actually work for Ecamm, there's all these comments coming in. How do we get to that point? Because I think a lot of people jump into creating a community because they want to sell something, or they want to sell the monthly recurring revenue for this community they're in. But that doesn't happen overnight. So what are some steps that like people who are starting a community can do to get to the level where you're at now inside of the Social Media Examiner, where people are asking questions and getting them answered by the community? There's this kind of group think. They're working together to solve problems and inviting each other to do things. How do we get there? Like when we first start?
Yeah, get your friends involved.
Mm.
And by friends, it doesn't have to be, your best friends in the world, but get people who know something about a facet of the industry or the topic at hand. So, if I'm going to start, a beard growing club, I'm going to call Jeff
You'll
C.
lose.
And
yeah.
And you might get a beginner like me who I just have never, it just doesn't grow past this point. But at least you can talk about it. Mm-hmm. And then you get somebody who, is the moisturizer king or mm-hmm. queen. And, you get them involved in that, and how it's actually promotes good skincare because of this, and how you can attract the right type of client because of the way you look with that fine beard. And then it's a snowball effect, because everybody has something to learn from most anybody else. It's back in the early days of social media, it was always, don't feed the trolls.
Right.
And it was like, there was such that was so highlighted back then. The brands that have won are not the ones that fed the trolls. They're the ones who moved on and cared about the people who were adding value.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So, I think that's a great place to start with, adding value, getting your friends involved, and then also not, your posts that I see on in Social Media Examiner's feed and other places, when you ask those questions, they're very open-ended, but then you don't just leave it. You go back in and you respond to those comments. You try to continue the conversation. There's no really sales pushy thing at all in there. I mean, it's organic conversation is what it kind of looks like to me. And I think that's what people do wrong right at the beginning. They go in like, hey, I've got this new course, or hey, I've got this. And then they wonder why nobody's commenting on it, because they don't want to be sold to. They want to have a conversation. So.
Absolutely. I'm not going to, if I'm going to, you're in Texas and we've got two Buc-ee's in Kentucky now,
There you go. Yeah.
It's like me trying to say, Jeff, come to this gas station. The gas station is great. You're going to get some great gas. No,
right.
You're going to talk about the experience. Yeah. You're going to talk, I want the brisket.
Yeah, that's
but
good too.
You're going to talk about the experience and just how when they welcome you in, I feel like responding right back. It's great to be here. Thank you for welcoming me. That whole that whole experience that you're getting. It's more than just, you're gonna get some great gas there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think getting that point where you're not going to get great gas from me, although you haven't eaten my food yet, but having that thing that you're going to give those people, if it's going to be conversations, hopefully the reason I do my live show is because I have people and I can bring up their comments, and people I think like that, because that's the community aspect of a live show, and that's what I love about doing live shows every week. In fact, this is because we're going to move on to like some tools, and Ralph asked this great question. He goes, I had a Zoom meeting with Mighty Pro yesterday, which is a kind of a community platform, about planning for a community, and I love the idea and features until they told me the $28,000 price tag per year. Does it need to cost that much? So Jason, as a community leader, and you've tried all these softwares, I know you use Heartbeat over at the AI Business Society. What are your thoughts about that much money getting started?
No.
Okay. Expand on
So,
that a little bit. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, the best communities are organic and they are low cost. And people understand if you're just starting and if you have a Facebook group, that's fine. And if that's where you need to go with scaling it to what your needs actually are, it's okay to stand at the corner if you're selling eggs and you have the hand painted, wooden sign with the
Mm-hmm.
hand painted eggs for sale. It's okay to start with the free sign. It's okay to have the free tools. But then as you're adopting, I would suggest adopting at least one paid tool.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's ChatGPT. $20 to
Yeah.
have some of the extra features and have some of the privacy. But I scale cautiously. So I have like 5 tools that I will have at any given time, with 3 of those being the interchangeable ones. I'll
Mm-hmm.
have some sort of image um, generator, or like Canva.
Right.
Canva and ChatGPT are mine. I canceled Canva for like 3 days and I realized, oh, I actually do use
Use
this.
that a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
Now I have to pay $3 more a month
I
because of
know.
that.
See what happened?
But
Yeah.
yeah, see, but yeah, tens of thousands of dollars. You can, I mean, we're all sitting on a media empire and it's free
Mm-hmm.
to build. You just need to get your friends to join you along on the process.
See, I love that about inviting your friends because I think that's what I feel like here with everybody who shows up every week. And then Ralph asks this as a follow-up question. He goes, the issue is that I have several clients who have huge Facebook groups, but Facebook owns that, and they don't get much penetration in making marketing to the group. That's why I'm looking at other options to build. So, Ralph, a couple of things that I've seen, and I'll let Jason chime in too, is a lot of people start with a free Facebook group, and then they funnel them into, I don't think you need to pay that much for Mighty Networks, but there's Circle, there's Heartbeat. You can have some WordPress plugins that do the same thing. Jason, what else would you recommend for Ralph? Runs a Christian financial business. He's an accountant. He does that as a business, but he also does a daily podcast. And so, what would you recommend to Ralph when he's trying to build this community? Because he does have people who come to him for financial advice, and instead of just going from one to one, he's thinking going to one to many. So, what would you recommend for Ralph to get started on these kind of first steps to build this community out?
Man, I've enjoyed my experience as a user with tools like Kajabi, where
Mm-hmm.
the website is included, and then there's an email um, component to it. That type of thing. I could see, as you scale, spending $150 to $250 a month, if you're ready for that, where you own the email list. So like if one of those providers goes out of business tomorrow, well, you still have the email addresses. You have some way to get in touch with your audience.
Right.
But the platform doesn't matter as much as it is like that you have these people who, if you stopped posting for 3 days, they're going to say, what's going on?
Right.
Oh, I'm curious. Not everybody's going to be like that, but hopefully you've built that loyalty where they come to expect. Kind of like when a podcast that I've been listening to for years, they just stop. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, what happened? You start to check the obituaries and
Right.
ask ChatGPT what happened to the person. But
Right.
um, yeah, it's really that level of depth that your audience comes to expect from you.
Mm-hmm. And Sean Robertson from Boat Mostly Disney says, yeah, he does his podcast live each week and chatting with the folks in the chat. He wishes he could do that every night. And so I guess you need to also figure out where your people are. Like, we're very lucky that when we do our live streaming here is we can actually go to, we're on LinkedIn, which is great for the business side of things. We're on Facebook, YouTube for discovery, all those different spots. So I think when you build your community is poll them. Wouldn't you say to ask them if you have any sort of people who are following you and you're decided to start a community? Don't you think, Jason, you might want to poll them and like, hey, I'm thinking about doing X. Would you guys like to go over there, or is that too big of a lift? I mean, that's the big. Everybody gets scared to do something, and even Vincent said this, like they just need to go somewhere. Like you just need to start it. So what do you say to something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. We
Okay.
made the shift. We were in a Facebook group,
Mm-hmm.
and then we made the shift to Heartbeat. And that was a big move. But what ended up happening was the depth of conversation became that much deeper. The comment threads became that much longer, because we got to dictate a little bit more. It wasn't that the algorithm served your feed and the society still exists. No, like people make a concerted effort. Now there is an email component to that. We send out an email digest and it's like, hey, we're here. We're having great conversation. Come on back. Are there a fewer number of people who comment? Perhaps, but the loyalty is that much deeper on a private community. So now I say private community, I guess Facebook, it was a private community, but one where the algorithm didn't have such a say in what was served to people.
So are there any other tools that you kind of use like inside of Social Media Examiner and your other communities? Because I want to kind of dive into some tools and techniques, like, because there's a different strategy for what you're doing to build community in Facebook, which is like the wide, like I'd say top of the funnel. And then you have managing communities inside of those walled gardens that like the AI Business Society are. So how do you, one, move them to that? You just tell them like, hey, by the way, we have this other thing.
Very carefully.
Or do you, and like, and how, what are the strategies? Like out there, you're kind of casting a wide net, but inside there, you want to really foster communication, because, and this is something Jay Klaus says, everybody wants recurring revenue, right? But you also have to provide recurring value. And a lot of people don't think through that when they start a community. They say, I'll just have a community, then we'll just talk in there and people will pay me money. But no, you've got to create that recurring value. So talk about the two sides of like the wide funnel and then what you have to do if you have a paid community.
Yeah. So there's the component of having the expert come on, right? Mm-hmm. That's great. You know, that's very much a broadcast perspective, which I would be very leery in saying, yeah, throw all your eggs into a broadcast platform where you have one person and they're speaking and people are listening and that's it. Mm-hmm. That cuts off. Yeah, there's the element of we'll have a Q&A at the end and so on. But let's face it, that's basically one person saying, here's how to do it. But then to add that meetup component where there's a two-way communication, like, you know, you might set the agenda for what we're going to talk about, but then make it very much a collaborative thing where we actually have our members come on the screen or their voice appears on the call, and they help shape where the conversation is going to go. And so that gives the audience member buy-in. They can share their expertise. We certainly welcome that. I think that's the thing that I hear a lot of creators, that hesitation of, or you feel that where it's like, well, I want to be the expert. I want to hold on to it. But again, we have so much to learn from each other.
Yeah.
So to actually have your community rise up, and you know, and here's the little secret with Social Media Examiner. That's how we find our speakers. That's how we find people whose platforms are going to be elevated. You know, it's not through pitching us through an email. It's through being in the community and being helpful. And we don't see that as a threat.
Right.
No, that's a tremendous value builder for us.
Yeah. So, and Sean even says, he goes through, I have found that inviting smart folks on and then getting out of the way has been helpful. That's my whole strategy, Sean. That's all I do. I've done for over 4 years and even years before that. That's why Jason's on here and not just me. Because, yeah, you can learn a lot. And also bringing that and asking the right questions that you know that your audience and your community members need, I think is really, really good. And Social Media Examiner does a great job with that inside their societies. One of the things that you mentioned, Jason, in your new role that you're really excited to spend more time like supporting community members, fostering discussions, and ensuring that they have the best possible experience. What are some best practices that you use to achieve that? For instance, do you have like strategies for welcoming new members? Do you have like conversation starters? I mean, what buckets do you have to make sure people feel heard and valued in the community, because I'd love to know. I joined Jay Klaus's. He's got what he calls the lab, which is his kind of for creators, his paid kind of mastermindy community. He has the best job of onboarding that I have ever seen. Like, I don't know how he has done it, but he teaches you how to do it. He walks you through. He tries to put you together in a mastermind with other people. I mean, it is the best thing I've ever seen.
That's
but
awesome.
I want to know how you guys do it, and to welcome new members and get them involved.
And this is a changing process, because actually one of our team members rose up about a week or two ago and said, "Hey, let's change that. We ask, what is your superpower? What is it that you bring?" And this team member said, "Why don't we ask them, what do you want to learn in the next month?"
Mm.
So we have a little bit of track record behind us now. We've been around for about a year. So with the AI Business Society, so we have training on this, that, and the other thing. So chances are, if somebody is wanting in the next month to know how to become a rock star with Midjourney, well, we know, hey, check out Jeff C's teaching on it, because
Right.
by
It's
the
out of
time
date now.
you're done with this, yeah,
It moves so
exactly.
fast,
You're gonna realize that we
Yeah.
need to have Jeff back.
Right.
But that's being obsessed with wanting to know what our community members want, and getting that need fulfilled. So you hear that a lot in the marketing, like, oh, well, we're giving people what they really need, not just what they want. Well, actually, part of marketing is, I want a better life and I want it now.
Right.
Give it to me.
Mhm.
And then after you've sold them, you say, well, here's what you got to do.
Right.
Well, in the community, they're already bought into the point. Hopefully they're bought into the point of, okay, I know I need to change, and I know I need to take some steps. Get me to where I need to go so I can take the steps. And I think that helps with the churn thing. I hate to say churn. Doesn't that just make you feel kind of gaggy?
Well, churn the butter. I love butter. So there we go.
Well, there you go. but that, you hear of all of these rates of attrition with private memberships. But if you are obsessed with helping people get to where they need to be, and if it's an ongoing need, yes, you're going to have people who no longer need what you have to offer. But by and large, you're with them in the journey. And that's the reason, I've been a consumer of Social Media Examiner's content since 2009. Yeah. I hang in there with it because they have shown me that they are a proven guide that will help me advance.
So, and I know you guys have them because every community does. And we used to call them in church the extra grace required people.
EGRs, yes.
The people that are hard, one, they come in and they seem to dominate. They try to dominate every conversation. They try to go and comment on every thread. Sometimes they can become, you have those ones who are really trying to be helpful, but they really don't know what they're talking about. And then you have some people who are just really trying to sell their own products inside of your community. How do you guys handle those, extra grace required type of people that inevitably will show up to any community that you build? That's just people. So how do you handle those people that are struggle to deal with a little bit?
Well, it's funny, Jeff, because that is actually something that we don't deal a whole lot with anymore, because it's our audience by and large. Now we are bringing in new people, new audience members all the time, right? But we have that maturity with, okay, trust us, we've been there,
right?
And it's not just I'm starting something new today, trust me. We have over a decade and a half, almost a decade and a half of experience with people knowing our reputation. So what I would say to those who have those EGRs, I've been a part of startups where that exists, is just being fully aligned with your purpose and reminding people, this is the reason we are here. And you can state that strongly. This is what we're on about. So if I tell you I'm all about helping people win, and Jeff, you come in and you are like, you know what, my audience is stupid and blah blah blah,
Right. Right.
and you're complaining about it, I'm gonna say, well, we're here to help people win. How are you helping people win?
Mm.
Have you thought about that? And ask some of those questions. I think asking questions and getting to the heart of it, it might just be that Jeff has had a really tough day. He's had a really bad week. And so he's bringing in all of that baggage.
Right.
And who knows, I used to be an airline employee back in the day, like before 9/11, when you could choose the airline people. I worked security before the government took it over.
Oh, wow.
People used to be like, you people are fake cops and stuff like that.
Right.
Well, the thing is they needed us. Mm-hmm. They needed me as an airline employee to be able to board the plane, and I could withhold boarding from somebody. Yeah. They needed me. And in that moment of heat, you have to realize, as the person in authority, and you are in authority as the community leader, of, hey, trust me, if you're going to have a good experience in here, you're going to be the person who gives and takes and realizes that you're not you don't have ultimate authority. Yeah. So, and you can say that in a graceful way. And if that doesn't come naturally to you, well, your custom GPT that you built, or just
right.
Chat GPT, you can say, I want to be an 8 on the level of, on a scale of 1 to 10, I want to be an 8 level professional. How do I respond to this person? And it does a great job.
So other than just booting people out, like just because they make you mad, what are some like common pitfalls or mistakes to avoid when you're building and growing a community? Because I know a lot of people are interested in starting one, and it sounds really. The reason I have it, because it's a lot of work. I've seen the behind the scenes. It's not easy to do and do right. And so a lot of businesses that start groups or forums, they fizzle out. Like, so based on your experience, what should marketers or small business owners not do when trying to cultivate and engage community? Are there like misconceptions that community building that you'd caution against? Like, what would you tell people not to do when they first start?
Don't go for the money. Because it is a long game, but I promise you that if you play the long game, you can make money along the way, right? You can have different resources that you offer, and there's a lot of great.
Wow, I just lost you, Jason, completely. Am I still live? This is the perfect day. Let me see if I can bring you back in. If you guys are watching the chat, am I still live online? Because I cannot tell. It shows me live, but it shows Jason gone. So let's see what is happening here. Sean, are you still watching? Ralph, are you still watching? Give me a shout out if we are still live and online. Yep, we're still live. So once again, this is fun stuff that happens every day. Here comes Jason back. I don't know what happened. He was probably playing Xbox or something when he was.
I had the Wii on, and
okay, there we go. So
anyway, go for the long game.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to, you create your courses, the foundational things. That's how you make your money, right? But if you're going to have a membership community, if you're going to have something that you want around for many years to come, then by all means, don't be in it for the money. Be in it for the friendships, the relationships, the concept of, I am in it for the long haul with these people.
So I said this at some mastermind or something, but I knew it shocked people when I said it, but I said I would rather lose business than a relationship. That's just the way I am. I know that's totally against what a lot of people say and do in business, but I would rather make sure that the relationship's okay, because I think those are what's going to last. Business is going to come and go, but I really want to keep those relationships going, because you never know what can happen. Perfect example. You talked about building community back in Google Plus. There you go, Chris Stone. You can take a drink. That in Google Plus, I met Peg Fitzpatrick, right? Like she was running all of Guy Kawasaki's social media stuff, and we just had conversations. Like I'd ask her questions, she'd answer me. Nothing. I never asked or pitched her anything. We just became friends. Well, lo and behold, eventually, things happen, and then 5 years ago, she goes, "Hey, guys, doing a podcast. Do you want to do it?" I'm like, "Okay," and I wasn't thinking 15 years ago when I met Peg that I would eventually get business out of her. That's why we have to have a relationship. That wasn't it. It just, those things happen. Those natural things happen that, I'm friends with Ralph in the comments. He and I met on Dave Jackson's Saturday live show that he does. And so, I mean, it's just, those things happen. Business happens, but relationships, I think those are the things that I want to stick around. Were you going to say something? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, I think the perfect way to illustrate in my life the way that has worked is my cousin and I had a history podcast that we did together. Mm-hmm. And we did it just because we're cousins. We were 11 years apart. I'm the Gen X, he's the millennial.
Right.
And we grew up in different areas. And we did this podcast together. And neither one of us were history majors. But we had political science grads asking us to talk about the subject because they wanted to hear our perspective on it. Mm. And out of that came so many cool relationships, like with, a U.S. Capitol tour guide took us around the Capitol building, and we were able to, kind of be a little bit famous in that right. space for a while. Yeah. We're all forgotten about now. But if we would have sustained those relationships in a private community, we could have been the goofy ones who made the t-shirts and did the fun stuff with AI and right. all of that. That would have, a lasting, just for your soul,
right?
Just to have those relationships out there where somebody. I would pull into a city and I'd be able to meet somebody for lunch that was just a member of our community. How cool is that? And Jeff, we kind of met that way. And
yeah,
it just goes to show that, with anything there's good and there's bad, but pull all those good things out.
Yeah.
Because they're there for you.
Right. And I mean, it does make a difference building this community. Like, and Gary says this, I can't wait to meet Jeff in person. I know Gary, but you'll have to bring your guitar and play some music. So that's the cool thing about people that you have a relationship with online, stuff about them. I know Gary's an incredible musician and does some cool stuff. And so when you do get to those conferences like Social Media Marketing World, or I'm going to CEX later this year, there's people that just because of we all move in these same circles that you meet and then you get to hang out with and have conversations. And like Jason and I, he lives in Kentucky, I live in Texas, but we meet up, and since we meet every week, we're in a kind of a mastermind thing together where we get to just continue the conversation. It's really, really cool. Like I know Chris and Jim Fuse from Dealcasters who watch like that. We just go, and it's just like to just continue the conversation. I know Chris and Jim Fuse just go, and it's just like, hey, okay, that's what really cool. I'm laughing. An incredibly funny dancer. I hope he's. I am funny, but not in the good way, Gary. But yeah, I think coming and meeting and having those relationships that continue are important. The last question I want to ask you, kind of about the tools, and this is a show, ladies and gentlemen. The tools and tips for creating a community is: how many people do you need to have to start a community? That's a big question. I know a lot of people know. You mentioned friends. Like, do you start with 5? Do you wait till you get 100? What do you think is the rule for you to, when you are thinking about putting a community together, to do one?
Like this? Yeah. Well, it depends, right?
Right.
I mean, I would think if you can find 5 people who are really interested in the subject. So, okay, let's take that. Here's a really unique thing about Jason Goff. I love baseball, but it's not primarily because I enjoy knowing the stats about all of the players or this or that. I like the organ music, and I like the aesthetics of it. I like the logos and uniforms and the way the stadium is and stuff like that. Somebody else might like the food that's there. Or they might like the stats or whatever. But if I can get 5 people to talk about how much they love the aesthetic aspect of the sport and how it makes you feel, well, that's just going to snowball because it's a unique angle on that particular thing. So, I'm the guy who catches foul balls and, collects them. Like, that might be cool to that audience, but they might be like, no, dude, I just like the pictures.
Yeah.
So in that case, I would say, yeah, get 5 people to talk about it on Facebook, have a public page on that. And then if it snowballs into something else where it's like, oh, we like to custom design logos, like say my little town that's 1 square mile big,
right.
Say we had a baseball team and
right.
what would its logo look like? Then you might be able to make a product out of that. So I would say with something that's small, have something that's more public. And then if it becomes, deeper, if it gets into it, because it could get into where, a whole bunch of people who don't want to comment about the topic at hand are not in it. So I say the private communities are really good for those people who you stick your neck out anytime you comment on a social media post.
Right.
You want to give people, as a community leader, you want to give them safety.
Okay. So this is, tell me if I'm wrong, because this is the way I think of it. Like I say, if you have like 5 people interested in a subject, maybe you do a mastermind, because that to me, it's kind of very community. You're coming in it together. You're sharing things. You can do video calls and you can really develop a relationship. I have a paid mastermind where, Jim Fuse is in there. Connor's in there, Paul Gowder, and some other friends like Kira, who was in here earlier, is part of it. And so that's a great thing for me because it's like 5 people kind of had the same ideas, kind of wanted to move in the same direction. But then let's say I wanted to do, because I've actually thought about this, I want to have a community about how to create AI images. Like that's what we focus on. If you need help with that, you see my thumbnails, let's do a community about that. I would say maybe 15 to 20, then I can start thinking about a community in that way. I don't know. Am I off on that? You're the community guy, but that's, once again, this is free consulting for me. But what would you say?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Now, if you're talking about it just from strictly a marketing perspective, that's that's kind of where I'm entering into things like, hey, this new guy, Jason Goff, just shows up on the scene. Oh, what authority does he have?
Right.
That's where public, see if you can get some sort of interest generated from that and then take it private. But yeah, I would say I would even go higher if you're just new onto the scene.
Right.
Have the public presence and then go from there.
Yeah, the reason I was thinking about that number is because I've spoken about it a couple of times. I'm speaking about it more this year. So I feel like I'm kind of out there as people ask me for my opinions, and so that might be a thing. Now, if I was going to say like, hey, I'm going to start a thing on Substack, which I know nothing about, like Jim Fuse is in it, I still don't understand it 100%. Like, I would not create a community on that because I don't know enough. Like, I would, and why would anybody want to join a community where he's talking about Substack? I've never even seen him on it. He doesn't even have an icon. Like, you know what I mean? So I think it has to be something that's you're very passionate about and you really have some knowledge about. Am I correct on that?
I would say, though, that because you already have a following, you've got the know, like, trust factor. So they're going to trust you that you're going to bring people who are Substack experts.
Okay. I see that.
To your community. So out of that's where list building and having your people.
Yeah.
Your beard goes before you.
Right.
And trust it.
So that's another part I want to talk about. Like, a lot of times we talk about these things as like they're one like chunk of like community. Okay, how do you build community? But a lot of this stuff all works together. Like your social proof helps you have some people that are interested in joining your community. Having a list where you can advertise that community into is a big deal. That just doesn't happen. So there's a lot of this synergy that has to happen. I mean, Social Media Examiner has a huge email list where they can advertise, hey, we got this new AI society that's coming on. He's got a huge podcast where he can do that on. So would you suggest somebody who is just starting out, and I always use this example, like let's say it's a local florist, they're selling roses and they want to bring community of other, not just other florists, but they want to bring people inside who buy their products and they want to build a community. Would they start with like, hey, here's some free templates on how to arrange your own garden flowers, kind of a thing, and like that kind of stuff, and build it up that way before they, move on to something bigger?
Yeah, well, I mentioned like, okay, my city is 1 square mile.
Mm-hmm.
So that florist has a huge advantage because they have built-in guardrails on how they're going to build the community. Yeah. They've got a high school at their advantage. They've got, the funeral home. They've got the wedding planner and so on. So they can create that community within the community and then duplicate that. So, think city, county, state, region, grow where you're planted, right?
Right. Gotcha. Okay.
And serve them well. And, you see the best realtors are the ones who are like, don't move to Kentucky because, and then they'll give all the reasons why Kentucky's amazing,
Right.
We have better chili than Texas,
No, that is not true. Not true.
We absolutely do.
No, we'll fight on that one.
You only eat chili over spaghetti, Jeff. Only eat chili over spaghetti.
Anyway, something that we will not fight about is the amazing people over at Ecamm. See how I segued that so nicely? You can find out more about that at ecamm.com/Jeff. They are what makes this show possible. We appreciate their sponsorship. And you can see, even when there's hiccups, I'm able to just bring Jason right back in, even though, because he makes those chili comments, that's why he gets booted out of here so many times. But ecamm.com/Jeff. Use code Jeff15 to save 15% on your first purchase over there. We got one more section, and we're going to try to wrap this up. I know we're going long, but we started late. So if you guys got to run, I know Gary had to run. Thank you guys so much for watching. But I want to ask this question of Jason, because I think it's important. Like, I want to talk about the return on investment of community, because everybody has to have like a ROI. When you're talking to your bosses, they want to know, okay, you want to do this community. Why? What's it going to do to our bottom line? So when people ask that question, how do you answer it, Jason? Like in practical terms, like what returns can a strong community drive for a business? Say that florist and even a big, conference-based company like Social Media Examiner.
Well, your community that's where the know, like, and trust factor, right?
Mm-hmm.
You must have them. So Social Media Examiner, our founder, Michael Stelzner, has been very upfront with some of the trouble that we've had with our email.
Oh, yeah.
This year. And yet we just came out of having one of our best conferences ever. Why is that? It's because we had the community being like, well, where are they? I'm not getting your emails. Oh, I'll send them a message. I'll, send them a DM or an email or even call them. I'm not hearing from you guys this year. What's going on? And being upfront with it, we can admit that, a marketing company had trouble with their email. And that seems like, well, why did that marketing company have trouble with their marketing emails? Because we are real people. We have real problems. We are right there in the battle with you.
Right.
So the return on investment was our conference this year. Our community that's where they came from. Mm-hmm. They were loyal. So, and having your KPIs outlined, like, why are we doing this? Well, of course we're doing this to make money.
Right.
We are in it to see people win. And when people win, they reward us with their dollars.
So, and I think that's important, because so many times is people want to create a community to get that recurring thing, the recurring money, but they don't think about, like, there's a balance. Like, you can't just go out and say, like, I have this community, here's the stuff, go, you have to have the attitude of, like, we are serving you first, right? Like you said, we want to help people win. But we're serving you first. We're not, I've been in those communities where it's like, okay, I'm out of here. It's a sales pitch. This Facebook group that you say is free, I can tell, I've been in this long enough that you're just trying to funnel me to your high ticket item. And it's a balance, like, of how to do that correctly without making people feel like you're just wanting their dollar. So, and I really like how Social Media Examiner has done that, because they do lead with value first. Like, hey, it's not just pay us to be in our community for whatever, but you get all these trainings, you get all this with it. We're here for you, and they have those emails to come out. So, yeah, I think that's a great point to make, that you have to lead that way.
It's access,
Mm,
you know. So you have access to me very freely on the social properties. You know,
right.
there I am. But you actually have more access, not that you would want it, Jeff, but you would have more access to it in the society.
Right. Right. So let's, yeah.
Yeah.
So access is huge. And I know that's one of the reasons, like, Jay Klaus has done his thing, is because a lot of people want to get to have his knowledge that they can access. And I think that's a great selling point for a community. I want to dive into a little bit what you said about Social Media Examiner, because it's built thriving communities like the Social Media Marketing Society for marketers, and the new AI Business Society for those who want to dive into AI. So what value do those initiatives like those bring to both the members and the company? For instance, like Social Media Examiner launched the AI Business Society to help marketers navigate that the AI is changing so fast. What outcomes or success stories have you seen from those membership communities? Like, how do they help them contribute to their overall business goals?
Everything from, well, of course, if you're in this online community and you get the opportunity to actually meet your fellow community members, that's huge. I mean, you know, in 2015 was my first year of attending Social Media Marketing World, and it was like the World's Fair of like communities, because, you know, you had all of these different speakers who had their audience, and I was a member of two different communities that were represented among the speakers at Social Media Marketing World, and that introduced me to other communities, and it was like we had these instant friendships. Masterminds were formed out of that, and the whole bit. One of which I'm still in a mastermind from 2015. You know, started a podcast because of that, and so on. So there's that element of, you know, the IRL, you know, just seeing the people in real life. It's like it's better than a family reunion, right? There's not the awkward thing, because you're talking about a particular topic, and these people get you.
Right.
But then also speaker recruitment. Is there a better way to recruit speakers than the people who rise to the top and are the most helpful? Makes my job really easy, because I get pitched every single day. Can I be on your podcast? Are you in our community? It doesn't necessarily even mean you're in our paid community, but are you interacting with us? Are you part of are you part of what we're the movement that we've created? If you're not.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a great point.
It makes everybody's job easier, because we are attracting the people and repelling the people who aren't interested.
That's a great point of having your statement strong enough where you're attracting the ones you want and repelling the ones that you don't, because the ones that get in that shouldn't be are the ones that cause the most trouble. So if you can't talk about this is fine, but I know you started the AI Society, and you're kind of, because it's public knowledge, I believe, is sunsetting the Social Media Marketing Society. That's happening, I believe, in June. So when it comes to measuring the success of a community strategy, what metrics or indicate do you look at? Like engagement rate, membership growth? Can you go into the reason maybe why you shut down the society and going all in the AI stuff? Was the engagement dropping off in there, or did you just think it like we can move these people over, kind of a thing?
Yeah, there is that element of, there were some people when we made that announcement, there was some disappointment. A lot of it's nostalgia, though. Started to, you know, this information, it's matured. It's met its purpose. And because of that, now the part of the society that the social media marketing society that was just robust. And I think that people really, when they first heard that announcement, they grieved a little bit was,
Mm-hmm.
well, where am I going to get my questions? Like, where can I get some of those questions answered? And that's where, thankfully, we have that in the AI Business Society, where um, that's still a topic underneath the
Right.
larger
Right.
umbrella. So I view it more as it's not even a shifting of focus. It's more of a marketing has changed. And this is where we can assuage the fear.
Yeah.
So,
And,
mhm.
and I just want to say, I think you guys have done a really good job of, because I was in both. Like I taught in the society and also in the AI society, and I think you've done a good job of educating. Because if you didn't educate people, people would just be hacked off and leave, right? Like, but you educated why this was happening, how we're doing it, and what you get with this. And it is marketing has changed because of AI. Like it touches every part of what we do, and that's why we talk about it so much on this show. But I was very impressed with the way you guys did that, and I think that was important. That I'm sure you'll have some churn, but it's going to be better for the long term. So what I'm hearing you say is the ROI was better for moving to the AI society and sunsetting the other one.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, Jason. I don't know. Is there a question that I should have asked you that I didn't? Because I feel like you have so much about community that I could ask that I don't know that what I should have asked you. So, is there anything that you can think of that
We will never know. We'll never know. You'll download this transcript, throw it into
like,
ChatGPT, and ask it, "What should I have asked?"
No, because I think because of the rise of AI, right? We've got this coming. People are going to kind of stop trusting the written word, and there's all this stuff like who's really talking. That's why I love the live show, is because this is going to be hard to fake. And I think community is going to, the desire for community is only going to increase from what it is now because of it. So we've talked about the tools inside of it, but we've also talked about like what AI can't do. And AI can't even if it kind of sounds like a real person, it's still not a real person that can really empathize with you. Hey, bring in their real life experiences really, really quickly. So I think community is going to be a growing thing, and I think there's going to be a lot of people who do it really, really wrong, but the people who do it right are really going to see the benefits from that. So what are your thoughts
Absolutely.
in the future? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing that right now. You just heard the big announcement with a lot of the software companies. They're either not hiring or they're laying off,
Mm-hmm.
because the ability to code is important. It's important to know how to do that.
Right.
But it's sped up so much more. Just as writing,
Mm-hmm.
But that those things shouldn't be fearful or cause a fear. It should, it might put a fire under our seat to be like, okay, who am I going to serve? Who am I going to help?
Mm-hmm.
And if anything that's good that comes out of this disruption is we will align ourselves with the people who we can help most. And when we get a handle on that, of I really care about this group of people, and almost on an individual, like I actually care, like they are my friends, our customers, they are my friends because I help them and they help me. And AI doesn't do that.
Right.
AI gives me a connection point. Jeff, I have learned so much. Your session at Social Media Marketing World inspired me, and it continues to. I've
got it recorded now. I'm just gonna play it back and forth over and over. Yeah, let's put on loop. Yeah.
But it stirred something up inside of me to want to know more, so I can help this set of people better.
Right.
And no computer is going to, or algorithm or anything is going to do that. That's the human to human thing. Hey, look at this. And I can now introduce it to people. I got my wife on ChatGPT, and she's,
I know,
she's Enneagram 5, which is the research thing. And it is like powerful,
That's good.
And it's so cool to see that transformation happening.
Yeah.
So
A lot of tools, but and as we wrap this up, I wanted to bring up a comment of Hostile Family Films says such a great point about life. So, and you saw today, like Jason's camera went away. I was flustered at the start because stuff just didn't work. Like AI can't do that. Like, you're seeing the raw stuff that happens live, and I think that's going to be for companies and businesses to show that side of them. Like, this is real. Like, there's no denying that this stuff doesn't work, and this was not AI. So I think it's going to be more important and more important as we move forward. But Jason, thank you so much. I think we'll have to have you on again because community is just going to grow. There's going to be even more best practices and things we need to follow as we continue to do this in a way that does. I mean, we all need to make money, but in a way that is serving other people. This is another way that we provide service to our clients and customers. So I think it's going to be more and more important as we go forward. So thank you so much for this. Where can people find out more about the amazing Jason Goff, where they can, find out, about your stuff you're doing at Social Media Examiner, the stuff that you're doing in other places? Let us know.
Absolutely. So the best place to connect with me is on LinkedIn. So you can do jasongoff.com/LinkedIn. That will take you there. And then the AI Business Society, socialmediaexaminer.com/AI Society. And you can just go to the website. But I love to see many of you in there because there is so much good that's coming out of that. And Jeff's in there too, so why not?
I am. It's a great place. And I would say this, it's for users of all skill levels. Like if you're just dipping your toe into AI, it's a great place to start. There's plenty of things in there to look. If you want to dive in deep to something like Midjourney, there's a course in there. There's probably going to be one coming up on about ChatGPT image generation, but there's all sorts of things in there, how to use it to write ads with, all sorts of cool things. So I really recommend Jason's going in there and talking with Jason at the AI Society. Social Media Examiner is a great company. I appreciate them. So then letting them me borrow you a little bit too has been nice for that. So I appreciate you coming on, Jason. Thank you so much for today. Thankful for all of you like Gary, Rich Graham saying wheels off. Yeah, my wheels flew off today. Abby is watching the comments, but mostly Disney. Sean watching that, and our friends Ralph at askralph.com. Really great show today. And thank you so much, Jason, for taking your time out. And we appreciate all of you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, everyone.